This is our little, right, keep it short chat. Um, Talking about Jesus Christ yesterday, today, and forever. As we walk through the month of December, trying to keep our focus on Jesus and the amazing gift that it is that the fact that we are here, all of creation, the sacrifice that he made, and the active part that he has been playing in this story from the very beginning. And to remember, you know, the few days that we spent looking at where he was in the beginning is a reminder of what he gave up for a time when he decided to come in the form of a man and come down here and humble himself to live amongst all of us so that he could be this sacrifice for us in the way that he was. And we started yesterday reading the Matthew account of his birth, and we're going to continue that today. Again, you can go on thediligentwoman.com. That first page, pinned at the top, should be a post that is trusting. I think it says trusting in Jesus this time, in December. What does that look like right now? I even have it pulled up, so trying to look, I don't always have my forward facing look at that available. I just don't look at it. I'm always working on the back end, not on the front end. So yes, that is pinned at the very top. And there's a video. So this live video is on the top. And let's mute that. Who wants to get reverb on me? But if you go to thediligentwoman.com, it immediately pulls up, and all of this Jesus Christ yesterday, today, and forever content is the first thing at the top. The main post, putting trust in Jesus Christ in 2025, is kind of on the left side if you're on a computer. And all of our videos this week run along next to that. But if you click on that post that says putting trust in Jesus Christ, that one is a hub. So all of these posts that I'm making are getting collated into that post as well. So you can just go to the post to keep up with it every day if you're not watching the videos live. So I'm going to close this so I don't accidentally have the live video feeding into the back end of this. Oh, okay. So let's continue our story. Yesterday was all about Joseph. Joseph finding out about Mary's being pregnant, his concern about that, his care for her in that he didn't want to humiliate her, and do what was the right thing to do, and it was he's pregnant. And God, and he sends a messenger in dream to Joseph to tell him what's going on. Say, don't worry about this. This is not any shine on her character. She is pregnant by the Holy Spirit. She has a special child. The child has a special mission, and it is safe to marry her. There's no shame in marrying her. And Joseph trusts that information, which it would also go along with what Mary has told him, right? Because at this point would have told him how she became aware that this was going to happen, and then, declaring that she is pregnant, how that happened. She would have, I'm sure, regaled him with the story of her being told about all of by the messenger that came to her. So Joseph is obedient to the information that he's given, and he marries her, but he shows self-restraint because he does not take her completely. He marries her, and she is his wife, but he does not he's not intimate with her until after this child is born. He lets this thing play out in its entirety, basically without him getting in the way. But he just is there to protect her, is kind of how I take all of that. He's there to protect her from his family, and he's not fighting any of this. So that's where we ended with the end of chapter 1 in Matthew. Today's reading is in Matthew chapter 2, and it is in verses 1 through 6. So we're going to read that today. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in born King of the Jews, we saw his star come. And when Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And gathering together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he was inquiring of them where the Christ was to be born. And they said to him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for this is what has been written by the prophet. Unquote. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the leaders of Judah. For out of you shall come forth a leader who will shepherd my people, Israel. Unquote. Okay, so there's Matthew doesn't give the details of Jesus' birth. After he is born, there are these magi from the east. And I think that's important to recognize here. They're not local people. Now, whether or not those magi were learned men from other nations that are east of Israel, I don't even remember what all of them would be called now, but essentially, you're talking about everything that east of the Jordan. That what would have in the Old Testament it would have been Persia and Assyria and Babylon and all of those times and places and things. But this is all during Rome now, right? So I don't know that these are Roman people from these other places. Well, these are learned men of some kind, right? Magi usually implies kind of a priestly type. But they are video. Yeah. It's a more finely stress. Sorry. Hopefully this will keep going. Here it doesn't say well that it was likely we're given to me. Let's hope this holds out. I haven't moved. My internet shouldn't be stressing. Anyway, my internet is strongly dependent upon clouds, but I'm not using my Wi-Fi. I'm using my data, which that should just be all on Verizon. But anyway, the joys of a metal roof, right? Okay. Back to our story. We have magi from the east, so these are not necessarily Jews. They could be Jews who had been displaced in the east, who did not come back, and were continuing. Uh, you know, let me put the words out for you because I keep going to a black screen. Hang on, let me try something. This is probably going to reset because I told it to use the different. Okay. If you can see me, can you just drop an emoji in the comments below just so that I know that you can actually see me? Because my screen has gone black twice and then come back. So I want to make sure, and it still says that it's live. I just want to make sure you all are seeing it. So I'm going to wait just a second and give you a minute. Just drop an emoji. You can even just hit the heart if you want to do that. Just something so I can see activity from those of you that are here. So these people have come a long way. Think in your mind to Ezra and Nehemiah's time. Think about where those two people had to come from to go back to Israel at the time when they were trying to build the temple and then trying to build the wall. I think Ezra came from Babylon and Nehemiah came from Persia. He came from Susa. So months journeys in great caravans of people with lots of things. This would have likely been a similar journey. So a lot of effort taken by these magi to come because they know there's a prophecy, and they come looking for a definitive. They're not looking to see if a child has been born. They're coming to see the child that had been born. Um, and they saw his star in the east and have come to worship him. So they have an indicator, they're following it, and they are coming to give worship. Um, this sets off Herod. I think it's not necessary, but it's kind of interesting to know that King Herod in the time, he was given the moniker being the king of the Jews because he was friendly to the Jews in the Roman government. Um, so it probably would have been a little offensive to him for somebody to come say, "Hey, there's a new king of the Jews being born," even though he was not a Jew. Um, and so he asks, I love this, he gathers all of the chief priests and scribes of the people. I think you have to assume this is of the local Jewish community, and inquires of them where the Christ was to be born. He's like, "What's up with this?" And they tell him. They said, in Bethlehem of Judea, for this is what has been written by the prophet. And so they go and quote the prophet to tell Herod, this is what has been said, so this is where you should look. And then tomorrow, we'll see how he reacts to that. But just think about that. I don't know about you, but I know that I kind of get all comfy and cozy in my nice little conveniences of my life. And yes, we are told to pray that we are going to be allowed um, to live without trouble. 1 Timothy 2. We're supposed to pray that basically that we're not going to have any grief from the government. We're going to have enough persecution just from mankind in general, in this spiritual war that we're in. But in 1 Timothy 2, and let me try and remember it. In 1 Timothy 2 and 2, that we need to be praying, exhort with all prayers that we may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all godliness and dignity. We are supposed to pray for that. But it's not a guarantee. Just something that we're supposed to be praying that that's possible. But in some life circumstances, that's not going to be the case because not all governments are going to be looking to cooperate with God's people. So, but when we do get that tranquil life and we haven't been bothered, I live in a country where at the moment, my persecution is not as severe as, let's say, it is over in places in Africa right now. There is really no quarter for Christians in some places right now. My life is a little more comfortable. I gotta say, I don't have to get up and take a 5-month journey in order to respond to the truths that I read in God's Word. I don't have to. I can do it right here in my chair talking to you. Don't have to do all that. There's a lot of commitment involved in this. And I suspect if these are learned men who are giving their time and energy to studying the scriptures to be prepared for this, they see the star, they're ready to react, and they go to follow these things. Again, these are all things that indicate. I still find it kind of funny that we do all of this in December because even in that part of the world, the northern hemisphere, and it really shouldn't be in the winter. But I don't know. I'm not, not an expert on that. The stars being the way they are, the travel being the way it is, all kind of indicate easier travel time period, let's say. But we'll say that's more important with the shepherds because they're out with their flocks at the time. And I don't know, the Magi are not coming at the time of his birth. They're coming well after he's already been born. So the time of year probably could be any. They're still going to be traveling in large groups, but the feeding flocks is not going to be a focus for them because that's not their job. So, but either way, there's a lot of preparation here, a lot of looking out for. And if you think that's something that we are told to do as we're looking for the final days, right? Those are all the parables of um, the foolish and the wise virgins, all of these things about us being prepared for when Jesus returns. We're looking forward to something, but being ready to act when all of the signs show up, right? Because we don't know the day or the hour. Jesus doesn't know when God does it, but we will know without question when it happens, and then things are going to move. Um, so it's being prepared and ready for that. And I think these magi are a good reminder of that. And like all of our faithful people from the Old Testament that are good examples for us, looking for another country, they're just sojourners here. They're looking at the long picture. They're in this for the long haul. They're not getting an immediate reward. They're not going to live out the realities of a lot of the things they're looking for. They're just working day to day to work it to it as closely as they can. And the good reminder for us that that's our job, is that we're looking, what are we looking forward to? When are we preparing ourselves every day to be able to respond when the day comes that I need to do something? I think that applies to having our hearts prepared for when maybe the world goes a little crazy and maybe what's happening in Africa starts coming our way, and what those believers are having to deal with. Maybe that starts happening in my world. Um, Britain's not immune to that. There's a lot of Christians, they're not being killed, but they are being jailed and bothered just for praying on the curb, being outside, existing outside, and then being asked why they're standing there. And they happen to say, well, I'm just in my head praying for some of these people. And that's enough to get them trouble from the government. They do not have this um, in quiet and dignity that is hoped for in their lives, because right now things are topsy-turvy. It could come my way here in the U.S. There's no reason to think it couldn't. We're not immune to these things. And so how prepared am I, or how am I going to respond? How do I keep going on? I don't think we have a mantra, to wave a flag and make a big stink. You might try to influence things locally where you are, and up to each person, depending on their circumstances, what they feel like they need to do. But at the minimum, everybody needs to be prepared with, how do I continue to serve God when I'm not allowed to do it in all of the free and open ways that I used to be able to? Because God hasn't said that you absolutely have to be able to do it. All of his people went into hiding at one point or another, and they're not condemned for that. And it's not said that that was wrong that they went into hiding. You may have to do that, but are you prepared to do that? Is your heart looking for, how do I continue to serve whatever comes my way? So, but in this beautiful story with these magi, ready to pick up, travel hundreds of miles to a country that's not their own, just in response to a promise that's been given, that they've been told has been made true, that a child has been born and he's going to be a king. They're not coming to see him grow up to be king. They're coming to just meet him because he's here. And just kind of, again, it's that, where are you today kind of mentality. What can I do today? Where can I meet the Lord today? How can I meet him and appreciate him today? Can't meet him at the judgment. That's not here yet. I need to meet him today, where I am, with what I know, and with where he is, with all that he's done for me. And that can be enough, because the judgment at this moment, as I'm speaking, is not here yet. You be ready for it. But I meet him today where I am, And tomorrow, if that day comes, I will meet him again tomorrow. And kind of just looking at things that way. So, anyway. So we're going to read the plan has you read through Matthew's events first, and then we'll go back and read Luke's events after that. Luke gives more detail in places where Matthew does not. And so that if you like cross-referencing and if you like marking in your Bible, like I do, it makes for a lovely opportunity to cross all of these verses. Whereas this thing talked about in both places, put a timeline together in your mind. Well, some of Luke comes before some of Matthew and start to fit those things in together to get a complete story told from multiple perspectives to help you get a better understanding of what God shared with people. So fabulous that God did not give a very monotone, dry, historical explanation of his son coming. It's told through the eyes of these men and in ways that are meant to convince certain people of certain aspects. I mean, Matthew is very focused on the kingly aspect of this, whereas Luke is more into the everyday reality of a lot of the facts that he shares and stuff. How this stuff is real, how this impacted lives and stuff. He's a little more of the telling a normal story because he's telling a story to a Jew, or not to a Jew, to a Gentile, to Theophilus. He's not telling the story to the Jews, so his perspective is very different, and so that adds some nuance. So that's fun to catch. So again, if you pick up on anything, what do you pick up on? Just focus on verses 1 through 6. This part of the Magi story. We'll get the rest of it tomorrow, but just this part of it. What stands out to you? Is there something here that tells you more than maybe what you've noticed before? Hang on, let's see. Okay, making sure that I wasn't getting a text telling me that the video was off. So, okay, that's all I have today. I'm not sure I could say a whole lot more and be coherent. So, sorry that I'm tired and a little slow. Not a super exciting day. But I hope that this gives you something to think on. I hope that it makes you hopeful and it edifies you to get up tomorrow and meet the promises that God has given you with eagerness and to go after them, to pursue them like these Magi did, to do that in all of these things. So my prayer for you, as always, is abundance in all things as your soul prospers. And Lord willing, I will talk to you sometime tomorrow.